Welcome back to our channel Tax Master. In this video, we will discuss online about to check how to check transistor. So, so here is some websites will be open. A transistor is a semiconductor that allow current to flow through it under certain conditions and cut current off when other conditions are present. Voltage and cuts transistors are commonly used as either a switch or a current amplifier. You can test a transistor with a multimeter that is a diode test function. A transistor is basically two diodes that share one end. The share end is called the base and the other end are called emitter and collector. The collector accepts an input current from the circuit, but it can't send the current through the transistor until allowed by the base. The emitter sends a current out into the circuit, but only if the base allows the collector to pass the current through the transistor to the emitter. The base acts like a gate. When a small current is applied to the base, the gate opens and large current can flow from the collector to emitter. So, transistor may operate by junction or field effect, but both come into the basic types. An NPN transistor uses a positive semiconductor material P-type for the base and negative semiconductor material N-type of the collector and emitter. On a circuit diagram, an NPN transistor shows an emitter with the arrow pointing out, never point. A PNP transistor uses an N-type material for base and P-type material for the emitter and collector. The PNP transistor shows emitter with the arrow pointing in permanently in the memorizer. So the N-type material for the base. So insert the probe into the multimeter. The back probe goes into the common terminal and the red probe goes into the terminal marked for testing. Turn the selector knob to diode test function. So replace the probe tip with alligator clamp. Testing when you know the base emitter and collector. Determine which lead are the base emitter. The lead are round or flat wires extendly from the bottom of transistor. They may be labeled on some transistor, or you may be able to determine which lead is the base by studying the circuit diagram. Clamp the black probe to the base of transistor. Touch the red probe to the emitter. The rate of displaying multimeter note whether the resistance is high or low. Move the red probe to the collector. The display around which the same reading as when you touch the probe to the emitter. Remove the black probe and clamp the red probe to the base. Touch the black probe to the emitter and collector. Compare the readings on the multimeter display to the readings you got previously. If the previous readings were both high and the current reading are both low, the transistor is good. If the previous readings were both low and the current readings are both high, the transistor is good. If both readings you receive with the red probe are not the same, both reading with the black probe are not the same, so or the reading don't change when the switching probe, the transistor is bad. Testing: when you don't know the base emitter collector, clamp the black probe to the one of the lead of the transistor. Touch the red probe to each of the other two leads. The display shows high resistance. When each of the leads are touched, you have found the base and you have a good NPN transistor. If display show two different readings for the other two leads, clamp the black probe to other lead and repeat the test after clamping the black probe to each of the leads. If you don't get the same high resistance reading when touch the other two leads with the red probe, you either have a bad transistor or PNP transistor. So remove the black probe and clamp the red probe to the first of the lead. Touch the black probe to each of the other two leads. If the display show high resistance when each of the lead are touched, you have found the base and you have a good PNP transistor. If the display show two different readings for the other two leads, clamp the red probe to another lead and repeat the test. After clamping the red probe to each of the three leads, so I tell you the structure and you will see on the image how this is work. So if you don't get the same high resistance reading when touch the other two lead, the black probe, you have a bad PNP transistor. So this is how we check transistor, but we also read other website to discuss more efficient tutorial how to check a transistor by multimeter. NPN and PNP, there are four ways. How to find base collector, direction and conduction of transistor by multimeter. How to remember the right direction of PNP and NPN transistor and pin identification. Check if it is good or bad. If you pick this simple topic by using digital analog multimeter, you will be able to show more. Remember, the direction of NPN and PNP transistor identify the base, collector and emitter of a transistor. Check a transistor if it is good or bad. Table of content. Remember the direction of PNP and NPN transistor. Check transistor with digital multimeter in diode or continuity mode. Finding base of transistor. Second method, using digital multimeter to find the base of transistor. NPN or PNP. Emitter or collector. Check transistor with analog or digital multimeter in ohm range. PNP or NPN. Check transistor is digital multimeter transistor of HFE or beta mode. Remember the direction of PNP and NPN transistor. So E is emitter, base, collector. PNP pointed in. Collector, base, emitter. NPN not pointed in. PNP pointed in, NPN not pointed in. If you think that is little bit complex, then try this one. It's more simple. Emitter in which current is in base, collector base emitter, point in permanently, never point in. So this is a great example ever. Check transistor with the digital multimeter in diode or continuity mode. Remove the transistor from the circuit. Disconnect the power supply across the transistor, which has to be tested. Discharge all the capacitor by shortly capacitor lead in circuit. Set the meter on diode test mode by turning the rotatory switch meter. Connect the black test lead of multimeter to first terminal of transistor and red test lead to the second terminal. You have to perform 6 tests by connecting the black test lead and red test lead to 1 2 2 1 2 3 2 2 1 2 2 3 3 2 1 3 2 3 respectively. By just replacing the multimeter test lead or reverse the transistor terminal to connect test measure and note the reading in the table show numbers in red color and red test lead are numbered in black. Connect to test lead so test measure and the note the display reading show in multimeter in the table content. So in this image the transistor is BC 557 BC 557 BC 557. So the red black probe is 0 volts in diode or continuity tester, and 1 2 3 leg is displaying overload. Black to red displaying 0.733 volt DC, and red to black 2 to 3 leg display 0.728 volt DC. So black to red overloaded, red to 3 to overloaded. So 2 is P and N. So we have following data from the table give below. Out of 6 tests we got data and result only 2 tests, point 2 to 1 and 2 to 3, where we got at point 2 to 1 is 0. And 2 to 3 is. Now we can easily find the type of transistor as well as their collector base emitter. Point 2 is transistor base transistor BC 557 is a PNP transistor where the second middle terminal is base connected to red test lead of multimeter. That's a very great testing ever. At all terminals base is the collector PNP.